Marcus Washington had learned to measure his days in coffee spills and forgotten lunch money, in scraped knees that needed band-aids he didn't have, and in the quiet moments after his 8-year-old daughter Emma finally fell asleep when the weight of raising her alone felt heavier than the construction equipment. He operated for 12 hours a day. Tonight was no different as he stepped into the gleaming elevator of the Meridian Tower, his work boots leaving faint traces of concrete dust on the polished floor. Clutching a crumpled envelope that contained either his salvation or his final defeat. The elevator hummed its way up to the 42nd floor, where Marcus had an appointment he'd waited 3 months to secure. His daughter needed surgery, a heart procedure that would cost more than he'd make in 2 years. The charity organization on the 42nd floor was his last hope, though he knew men like him didn't usually get second chances from people who worked in buildings that touched the clouds. The elevator lurched to a stop on the 38th floor, and Marcus stepped aside to make room for whoever was getting on. But instead of stepping forward, the woman who'd been waiting stumbled through the doors, her designer heels catching on the threshold. She was everything Marcus wasn't: polished, powerful, with silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun and a navy suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. But something was wrong. Her face was pale, almost gray, and her hands shook as she fumbled with her purse. "Ma'am, you okay?" Marcus reached out instinctively as she swayed against the elevator wall. She looked up at him with eyes that held a strange mix of fear and determination. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked, and Marcus could see she was anything but fine. Beads of sweat dotted her forehead despite the elevator's cool air conditioning. Double quotes, "No, you're not." Marcus had seen enough construction site accidents to recognize someone in distress. "Let me help you." Before she could protest, her knees buckled. Marcus caught her just as she collapsed, her purse spilling its contents across the elevator floor. As he eased her down to sit against the wall, his eyes caught sight of what had scattered from her bag, and his blood ran cold. Photographs, dozens of them, pictures of children, some as young as Emma, with faces that would haunt him forever. Documents with official seals, USB drives, and a manila envelope marked with words that made his hands tremble. Project Nightingale, classified. The woman's eyes fluttered open, and when she saw Marcus staring at the scattered contents, panic flashed across her face. "Don't," she gasped. "Don't look at those, please." But Marcus had already seen too much. The photographs showed children in what looked like medical facilities, but something was wrong with the images. The kids looked scared, drugged, some had fur lines in their arms. Others had bandages in places that didn't make sense for normal medical procedures. "What is this?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman, he could see her name. Tag now, Dr. Victoria Sterling, CEO, Meridian Pharmaceutical, closed her eyes as if gathering strength. "You have to understand," she said, her voice stronger now but filled with a desperation that made Marcus's heart race. "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could stop it from the inside." Marcus felt the elevator walls closing in on him. This woman, this powerful CEO, had collapsed in front of him, carrying evidence of something so terrible. His mind recoiled from fully understanding it, but as he looked at her face, he saw something he recognized, the same expression he'd worn in the mirror every morning since Emma's diagnosis. Pure, desperate fear for a child's life. "Those children," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "What happened to them?" Dr. Sterling's composure crumbled. "My company," she whispered. "My board of directors. They've been using orphan children, kids, in the foster system. Children whose disappearances wouldn't be noticed. Testing experimental drugs. The side effects." She couldn't finish, but the photographs told the story her words couldn't. Marcus felt sick. His own daughter lay in a hospital bed, waiting for a surgery that might save her life, while somewhere, other children were being used as test subjects for the very drugs that might heal Emma. The irony was so cruel it took his breath away. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked. "Why not go to the police, the FBI?" Dr. Sterling laughed bitterly. "You think I haven't tried? This goes deeper than you know. Politicians, judges, law enforcement, they're all getting paid to look the other way. The profits from these drugs are funding campaigns, building careers. I've been gathering evidence for months, but every time I try to expose it, people disappear. Sources go silent, whistleblowers have accidents." She struggled to sit up straighter, her eyes meeting Marcus's with an intensity that made him believe every word. "I was on my way to meet with the one journalist I trust, but I think they know. My coffee this morning tasted strange. I think they drugged me." I probably have minutes before, whatever they gave me kicks in completely. Marcus looked at this woman, this powerful CEO, who could buy and sell him 1,000 times over, and saw something he'd never expected. He saw himself, a parent fighting against impossible odds to save the children they loved. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Dr. Sterling reached into her jacket pocket with trembling hands and pulled out a small flash drive. "This contains everything: bank records, medical files, communications between board members, names, dates, locations. It's enough to bring down the entire network and save those children." She pressed the drive into Marcus's calloused hands. "But you have to understand, if you take this, your life will never be the same. They'll come after you. They'll threaten your family. They have resources and connections I can't even imagine." Marcus thought of Emma, lying in her hospital bed, reading the same worn copy of Charlotte's Web for the 100th time, because it was the only book they owned. He thought of all the nights he'd worked double shifts, all the meals he'd skipped so she could eat, all the dreams he'd abandoned so she could have a chance at life. Then he thought of the children in those photographs, kids who didn't have even that much, kids who had no one fighting for them at all. "My daughter," Marcus said quietly, "she needs heart surgery. I came here tonight to beg for charity to pay for it. But those kids in the pictures, they need someone to fight for them more than Emma needs that surgery." Dr. Sterling's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. If I could help your daughter, I would. But after tonight, I'll probably be dead. They can't let me live knowing what I know." The elevator dinged, and Marcus realized they'd been sitting there for nearly 10 minutes. Soon, building security would come looking. He had to make a choice that would change everything. Marcus stood up, helping Dr. Sterling to her feet. "What's the name of that journalist?" "Sarah Chen. She works for the Washington Herald. Tell her Victoria sent you. Tell her the Nightingale is ready to sing." As the elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor, Marcus made his decision. He slipped the flash drive into his pocket and helped Dr. Sterling toward the exit. But instead of going to his appointment with the charity organization, he walked her to the emergency stairwell. "I'm going to get you somewhere safe," he said, "and then I'm going to make sure those children get justice." Dr. Sterling gripped his arm. "Your daughter's surgery will have to wait," Marcus said, and he meant it. Some things are more important than our own problems. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the courthouse steps, watching as the last of the Meridian Pharmaceutical executives was led away in handcuffs. The story had made international headlines. Hundreds of children had been rescued from illegal testing facilities. Families had been reunited. Lives had been saved. Dr. Sterling had survived, though she'd spent 2 weeks in intensive care recovering from the poison that had been slipped into her coffee. She testified against her former colleagues, her voice strong and clear as she detailed every crime, every cover-up, every child who had suffered. Marcus had lost his job, had his apartment broken into, had received threatening phone calls in the middle of the night. But he'd also gained something he'd never expected: a purpose larger than himself. "Daddy!" Emma's voice called from behind him. Marcus turned to see his daughter running toward him, her hospital gown replaced by a bright yellow dress, her cheeks pink with health. Dr. Sterling had kept her promise. The reward money from the pharmaceutical company whistleblower fund had paid for Emma's surgery, and then some. But more than that, Marcus had learned something about himself. He'd discovered that sometimes the most important battles aren't the ones we fight for ourselves, but the ones we fight for people we'll never meet. As Emma threw her arms around him, Marcus looked up at the courthouse and smiled. Sometimes the most ordinary people, construction workers, single fathers, men who measure their days in coffee spills and forgotten lunch money, are the ones who change the world. Sometimes all it takes is being in the right place at the right time and choosing to do what's right instead of what's easy. Sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear work boots and carry crumpled envelopes and have calloused hands that know how to catch someone when they fall. And sometimes, Marcus thought as he hugged his daughter close, that's exactly enough.